I wanted to ask about the accountability practice. And so with the end goal or the end time frame for this period being 3 to 4 months at the end of the release, what is the check-in process look? Is it a group conversation? And I guess what's the accountability mechanism look like?
That's a great question. Yeah. So the thing I also noticed when I was thinking about we put too many things on, we have too long of a list, is we don't check in enough. Like our goals, literally, they're kind of like, dirty dishes that you just don't see anymore, right? You kind of like put them away and then they grow all kinds of things, right? If you don't come back and look at your goals on a regular basis. So we have a monthly group meeting which we do. And that's all of us. We get together, we look at the table, we look at our goals that we set out for the month, and we just kind of, almost like a stand up around that. But before we even go through the goals, we do a check in, which is just like what's top of mind for folks, right? Again, it's that safe space. And then we go through, we talk about the goals, we talk about where we are. We always talk about what support can the team offer you to achieve your goals, along with, so there's the accountability where there's always a question about what have you done? Like, what have you achieved? Right? Not just kind of like, okay, well, I started. No, here we're talking about completion and finishing, right? So we talk to that and then we share the things that we have done. We share the things that we didn't do. We share potentially the whys of that, not so much for there to be excuses, but like, really acknowledging, especially as people know in these past couple of years, there's this thing called life. The best laid plans can just go sideways as a result of it, right? So we acknowledge that piece of it all as well. So, and then we just kind of check. And I say when you're in a group and you know you have to talk to your peers every single month, that really has been like I don't know, the accountability magic wand because nobody wants to show up and not have anything to say. And so every week, I always, like in my weekly message, I always talk about the next level. So it's always on their radar. And then they know we meet every month to check in.
I have one question. I'm curious to learn more about the comparison between the accountability partner being just the manager versus the group. So how that changed people's behavior and how they show up in those meetings.
That's great. And what's kind of like, I think it's almost similar to, without it, being family dynamics, but similar to family dynamics, right? So when you talk to your manager, that's almost like your parental figure, right? Whereas if you talk to like your peer, it's very much like your sibling. I don't know too many people who don't want to like show off for their older siblings or their other siblings, either if you're the oldest one, you want to show the young ones how great you are. If you're the youngest one, you want the approval of the older ones, right? So you think about experienced engineers versus like, newer engineers, and it kind of all plays out the same way. Everybody really wants to show up for their peers.
I'm really curious about the team support component. When you open up the invitation for people to offer their support in the completion of their goal, can you share a little bit more about what that looked like or maybe a couple examples? Because I have to imagine if I'm somebody who, let's say, to reference, your goal example of like, first off, I really appreciated your goals because it was almost like counterintuitive to like what a typical quote unquote goal might be. It's not like I want to, achieve X result by Y date, but like the practice of letting go and focusing on rest. I feel like it's that's a powerful goal, I think, to start with, because that probably disrupts people's expectation of what a goal should be. But so to take that one, like if you say like I'm looking for support on how to let go, what does that support typically like look like, or have you seen or any really special moments happen within the team when inviting people in to support that way?
Yeah, they have supported me with both of my goals. They have really, encouraged me to take time off. They were, basically they were like, aren't you leaving? I thought you were off today. Why were you still on Slack? Why were you, and so forth. So it's been really great to see my team really kind of, they definitely have been holding me accountable about being out of the office and getting off, let that little green dot, go away. Right. So they've been great about that. And they joke about it all the time throughout any meeting where they see me. They're like, hey, Joy. And the letting go piece has been really great because so many of them have stepped up and have just said, hey, you want to delegate some of that joy? Right? And which has been like a benefit I didn't even think about, right? Like,
Isn't that the
I
best thing you
thought,
can hear from our team?
right? So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I totally will delegate. And it was, for me, it was great because it gave me an opportunity to let them shine and to let them, like, so, one's like, hey, I'll do some of the stand ups, right? I'll facilitate that. I'm like, perfect. Another one's like, hey, what else is on your plate, Joy, that, like, I can help you with? I'm like, great. Right. So it was like a win win because it was really, like I said, me, an opportunity to let go. And those were easy let goes. They were. Because I could see the benefit of me letting go and letting other people take the lead on those. So they have been really great about just checking in with me. Like really, anytime. Since we started this process, they are very open about, checking in with me. And I think they do the same about checking in with each other as well, about like what's going on.
Absolutely. I think there's something so special when you share something that's important to you, like a goal or an intention, and the people around you want to do everything they can to support you to make that happen. Like that, I feel like that environment is so powerful to know that essentially people have your back and want you to do the thing that you were setting out to do.
Yeah, and I saw it with my team too. Like even the folks who, express like, "Oh, I want to learn more, like, increase my software architecture." Then other people are like, "Oh, well, let me reach out to that person because I'm working on X, and we can work on it together." There were a couple people, and the other one's like, "Oh, let me improve my communication," and that kind of rolls into the confidence piece. Okay, let me provide opportunities for you to present and so forth. And so it worked out really well because everybody had full awareness what like the goals were for the entire team. So they were, whenever anything popped up, everybody was always top of mind for each other.
You are describing, I think, the dream vision that Jerry, myself, and our team have been that like that's the end state vision for the environment within ELC. And because I think about like for our summit in 2020, one of the things that we talked a lot about was like so much of the value or power of the community is entirely in what you choose to share, and that openly sharing your goals or your problems is going to then help elicit that type of support from other people. But the trick is that if instead of focusing on what can you get from the community, focus on rather how you can support other people, and then that helps create that ecosystem where people come because they know they want to contribute and support. So by nature, everybody kind of gets that support because of it. And so like when you're describing this with your team, I'm like this is it. This is the vision, like to create that type of environment for folks. Like that's it.
Yeah, it's been great. There's like, everybody has really benefited. One person really kind of stood out to me because it was amazing to see what they did. Like they really kind of took this challenge on and just ran with it, in ways that I had never seen before, just in all of their communications across the board. They really just embodied the end the entire time. So instead of like, oh, how do I get there and how do I, be there? Like from day one, they're like, okay, this is who I'm gonna be. This is how I'm gonna show up. And um, their communications with like other teams, presenting, taking initiative on so many different tasks, and really leading the rest of the team, through these items. I was really blown away. I was really blown away how they embraced it.